sound has the power and the potential to create an embodied experience. Usually when we listen, we're not merely listening with our ears, but we are listening with our full body, and especially if we have the proper speakers, or if there is live music going on, and especially with rhythm and percussion, we might actually feel the vibrations in our bones and in our tissues and the different parts of the body. Let's do an experiment. In case you are listening with proper speakers or headphones, especially, you will notice this sound that is coming up right now. Where are you feeling it? Can you localize the feeling within your body? Can you localize where the sound is somatically touching you? This is one of the great powers of Nāda. So Nāda translates as sound, but is much more than sound. Nāda, in the first place, is referring to the internal sound. I'll come back to that in a moment. It also translates to vibration or resonance. And then there is Brahman, Nāda Brahman. All is vibration. So yes, one of the translations for Brahman is all or everything or the universe. But a correct translation is the ultimate or the abstract Godhead. Meaning to say, reality or God without a form. God free from even mental constructs. Really the essence of life. So this ancient statement is saying that the essence of life is vibration. The essence of reality or God is vibration. At the foundations of reality, there is movement and resonance. So often this statement gets translated as everything is sound. And if you were ever part of a sound healing course or experience or a yoga course or anything related to it, you might have come across this idea that everything is sound and that God is sound. Well, there is a truth and an untruth here. Purely scientifically speaking, what is actually sound? Let's look at the description on Wikipedia. In physics, sound is a vibration that propagates as an acoustic wave through a transmission medium such as gas, liquid, or solid. In human psychology and physiology, sound is the reception of such waves and their perception by the brain. Only acoustic waves that have frequencies lying between 20 Hz and 20,000 Hz, the audio frequency range, elicit an auditory percept in humans. So what is this basically saying is that sound is acoustic vibration. It's not just any vibration. Very easily, vibration and sound gets equaled, but they are very different. Sound is a tiny, tiny little aspect of the totality of vibration. If everything is vibration, this is a huge, huge spectrum where human beings only see a little part of it. And sound is a tiny, tiny part of that little part that human beings can perceive of the totality of the vibrational being of reality. You see, so sound is very small, and sound is, as Wikipedia says, the acoustic sound that a human being can perceive between 20 hertz or waves per second and 20,000 waves per second. So this is the range that the human ear can detect, and this is, scientifically speaking, sound. So stating that the whole universe is made out of sound isn't aligned with the scientific view, though through sound we experience directly the vibrational nature of reality. Yeah? Sound offers a direct doorway to the vibrational reality. That is the power of sound. Although not everything is sound, by listening deeply and listening consciously, we might suddenly become aware of the fact that everything is moving and vibrating, and we start to perceive the whole world and reality as a movement and a vibration. So all is vibration, I believe, is a more correct translation of the Sanskrit term Nāda Brahman, and it is more aligned with science as well. Science agrees to this statement that all is vibration. Atoms are made of subatomic particles. They behave like waves. Sound, light, and even heat is known to be vibration. And then there is the theory called string theory. This is suggesting that actually at the core of all life and even all matter, there is a resonance. Just like strings, it is vibrating. Basically, the tiniest of the tiniest piece of reality that scientists could study seems to be moving and vibrating. So therefore they call it the string theory. So this is an agreement between science and the ancient rishis or wise men from India. Not only India, in many cultures and continents, the ancients found out through direct experience that life is vibrating, that at the core of existence there is vibration. So what did the ancient rishis and the ancient tantric sages say about this? Actually, this knowledge is huge. This is absolutely huge. There's so much information in ancient yogic texts about vibration, definitely more than any other mystic or spiritual path. And it starts already from the ancient Vedas. I'm going to read a little part of the Chandogya Upanishad, which is a script from around 3,000 years ago. It was orally transmitted for a long time before it got written down, and then eventually got written down and ended up in this book, which is called The Upanishads by Eknath Easwaran, and many, many other books and translations, of course. But I kind of like this commentary and this translation, so I'm going to read a part of it. So these are words that were uttered by a sage around 3,000 years ago. Om stands for the supreme reality. It is a symbol for what was, what is, and what shall be. Om represents also what lies beyond past, present, and future. Brahman is all, and the Self is Brahman. Brahman, or God, is all, and the Self, with a capital S, it says, is Brahman. This is so incredible about the Vedas, that there is a strong emphasis on God within yourself. It's not a guy with a beard somewhere on the top of a cloud. God is to be found and directly experienced within oneself. And it can be reached or touched upon through listening as well as chanting. This text is suggesting. Focusing on the mantra Om, or the universal sound, one might get in touch with the essence of reality. And here in the end of the Chandogya Upanishad, it says, those who know Om as the Self become the Self. Truly, they become the Self. So if you know Om, or the primordial vibration, as yourself, the essence of who you are, you become the Self. And as the Self is equal to Brahman, or to God, you become God. In other words, let's say it's simple, if you realize yourself to be vibration, you experience God. You experience unity. So yeah, it's absolutely amazing, the body of knowledge on mystic sound, not only from the Upanishads, but also from the later tantric scriptures like the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, the Spandakarikas, Hatha Yoga Pradipika. These are all ancient yogic texts and tantric texts that elaborate a lot on this statement, Nāda Brahman, in their own terms. It's not always called Nāda Brahman. Sometimes it's called Spanda, the primordial pulsation of the cosmos. Sometimes it's called Pranava, or the Om, the mantra that we can actually chant. Sometimes it's called Anāhata Nāda, the unstruck sound that can be heard within the heart. And it has many other names. You see how much these rishis elaborated on this topic. So there is also a truth about the statement all is sound, because earlier I was describing what is not true about it. So on a subjective level, all really is sound. If we pay attention, there is no single moment where there is no sound. Let me give you an example. In the street next to where I live, there is a cave. Sometimes I go there, and I like to go to the furthest part where you can get, where it's entirely dark and entirely silent. And every single time I enter in this darkest, most silent place, I notice the same. There is a sound. Not coming from outside, because there is no outer sound. It's utterly silent. But there is an inner sound. There is a nada. Technically speaking, or scientifically speaking, we can't call this sound, right? But this is nada, vibrating consciousness. If you become really silent, try it out yourself, and you find the right place where there is utter silence or near utter silence, you will experience sound if you listen carefully. there is always a sound. So on a subjective level, yes, there is always everywhere sound. So in that case, the statement is true. Now this brings me with Anāhata Nāda and Ahata Nāda. In the teachings of Nāda Yoga, this is one of the essential differentiations between Nāda. There is struck sound, Ahata Nāda, and there is unstruck sound, the sound that doesn't got struck or beaten. Yeah, you can see it as a drum. And Ahata Nāda is when you actually hit or strike the drum. Yeah, you hear the sound. And Anāhata Nāda is the drum that is already sounding by itself. You don't need to strike it. You don't need to hit it with a stick. It is already going, eternally vibrating. This is Anāhata Nāda. And it's another name for Om. Only when we talk about Om, we think of the mantra that you can also actually chant. And when we speak or think about Anāhata Nāda, we mostly think of the subtle sounds that can be heard, like in the very darkest silent part of the cave. There is a subtle bell-like sound. But essentially, this is the same as Om. It's referring to the primordial sound. Now let's listen to a snippet from that same second episode of the podcast about the sound Om. Life is constantly vibrating. Roaring as the birthing mother, rolling and rumbling as the celestial thunder. Rushing and gushing as the never-ending waterfall. This is the one voice of God. King of all mantras, mother of names, source of all sound. Om, roar of the cosmos, roar of the mother. Big Bang reverberating in your bones right now. Primordial sound that has always been, eternal one that will always be. So this is a sound where we can actually play with as Ahata Nāda. So we can actually strike our vocal cords and sing along with the primordial vibration through the mantra Om. And I see chanting the Om as a humble human way of melting with the greater cosmic or divine ocean. It's like melting our little human wave into the vastness of the ocean. So it's a very humble act to chant Om. And it might be very powerful to chant it in group, through which you can experience the aspect of resonance with other voices, and the experience of reunion might be even stronger. That's why we sing Om in our circles. That's why maybe you are singing Om. in the beginning of a yoga class, or as a practice in itself. And really, this can be a practice in itself. It has been a practice in itself traditionally in many yogic paths. Patanjali described it as a potential practice, a potential way to find union in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. It has been described in the Tantric teachings, and throughout the ages there developed the path called Nāda Yoga, the path of sound, basically. Sound as the core practice to reunite with the essence of life and to find who you really are and to reconnect with that. There has been many sages on this path before us. And one of these great sages was called Hazrat Inayat Khan. He was actually the one and the Indian man that brought Nāda Yoga to the West a bit more than a century ago. He wasn't a Hindu, he was a Sufi, so he was a Muslim. And that doesn't really matter, because yoga or Nāda Yoga isn't related to any particular culture or religion. Rather, it aims to evaporate all of the cultural and religious mental constructs that are there. It aims to dissolve the mental constructs. So it really doesn't matter what is the background. So he was a Sufi. He prayed for Allah, not for Shiva. And he died in the 1920s, but there is a recording of him, and I like to listen to that recording together with you, in which he devotionally calls for God, for Brahman, although he calls it Allah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah ilaha illallah. Allah is great. Allah Akbar. Allah is sound. Allah is vibration. Allah is all. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Nāda Brahman. All is vibration. Nāda Brahman. All is God, the vibrating one. To conclude this teaching of today, I like to offer you a practice. A very simple practice that can easily be integrated in the daily life. In the daily life of today. So this is my suggestion. Somewhere today, at some point, you stop doing what you are doing, whether it's walking or talking or working or anything else. You stop for a moment and you listen. Simply you listen with an open ear and an open mind. And with an open mind, I mean, try not to put a label to what you are perceiving. Simply listen to the sound and the vibration as it really is. Thank you very much for being with me. Om.